This is Neil Bronstein, and this is the DRC meeting for July 1st. And the first item is Seneca Meadows in Up County.
Good morning. Just going to highlight a couple of the major review issues, and then I'll turn it over to the applicant. So first, with transportation, we want to note that we would like to see improved pedestrian connections on site and off site, noting that Seneca Meadows is classified as a town center boulevard with specific frontage improvements required. Bridge Road is a controlled major access highway with frontage improvements needed for a shared use path. There are a number of comments by MCDOT concerning the storm drain and the storm drain easement, sort of relocating all non-standard structures out of the right of way, the storm drain easement or the PIE. Street trees need to be provided per the road classification. Concerning urban design and architecture, staff is recommending better framing of the townhouse buildings with a public realm to avoid creating triangulated, non-usable spaces. There's a drawing provided to illustrate this and other comments. Regarding the architecture, staff needs to see the townhomes composed as a building. So you need to show the string of elevations as one building. Generally, the front elevation should show a base, middle, and top with a thicker cornice line, and the high visibility end facade should be of similar design and quality as the front elevations. And there are a few other detailed comments with architecture as well that were provided. And generally, more trees are needed, particularly canopy trees. And that summarizes the major comments. I'll turn it back over to the applicant.
Great, thanks, Philip, and thanks everyone. We're excited to be here to discuss this residential infill development. It's a vacant parcel within the broader Seneca Meadows Corporate Center, which is largely all commercial today. And so the residential provides a nice kind of companion use to support those existing commercial users out there. We appreciate everyone's review and, of course, the comprehensive comments we got. We did have a chance to review all of that ahead of today's call. A number of them, of course, are cleanup comments, which we'll address with our resubmission. There were just a few that we wanted to chat through today while we have the benefit of everyone on the call. So, Mike, I'll turn it over to you to kind of start walking through those.
Thank you. Appreciate it. We did go through the comments in some detail, and like Liz said, there was several that we wanted to discuss briefly that we thought would be appropriate for a DRC, and we could see if there's some follow-up meetings that would be needed with individual agencies. We do have a meeting with Marie Labaugh to go over her comments set up for next week. Going through the list that we created, the first one we just wanted to talk through was the comment about the gross floor areas. It seemed like there was the information that was requested was on the cover sheet of the site plan, where there was some overall information, and then we also had site data table that kind of honed in on just this project. And this might be one that could be a quick answer where, Philip, maybe you could give us some direction, or if it's something we could just give you a call and share a screen and get to the bottom of what you're looking for.
Yeah, I'd be open to just a call after the meeting. That would be fine.
Okay. All right. Great. We'll reach out to you directly to discuss that. I think we'll be able to satisfy what you're looking for. I just want to make sure we don't go back and forth. All right. The next comment was regarding the internal streets. There was discussion on the urban design comments, the markup of the plan about I think it was called a queuing road. Um, I, I I think I understand the premise of it. If you were to zoom in on, say, private street C, we've got some on-street parking that's designated. And I think what the idea is that with this queuing street, there could be parking on both sides of the street um, that would be allowed instead of designating one side of the street. Is that kind of the idea?
Yeah, I'll jump in. This is Florence with transportation. So that would be like in our complete streets design guide, what we call like a neighborhood yield street, where there would be parking on both sides, and then two cars wouldn't be able to drive, each way. So that's why it's a yield street. There's so they would have to, yield to each other in one go at a time. But that would allow for more guest visitor parking for you all.
Right. And you know, the concern that I had with using that type of street was, these streets all are needed for fire access. So if we allow parking on both sides of the street, we would not necessarily have 20 feet free and clear in all areas. So I just wasn't sure if that was something that, because there could be 20 feet free and clear, that would be adequate. And we wanted to discuss this because we weren't sure if this was something that, we should get Marie LeBeau's input on.
Yes, I'd say
I-
definitely.
I'm here. Is this something you want to talk about next week or right now or?
I think right now, because this wasn't one of your comments, this was from planning staff, and
Yeah, this not familiar with this. Okay.
they, you know, essentially there would be parking on both sides of the street that, could just kind of happen naturally. It wouldn't be designated like we're showing here.
This community is too dense. We're asking for trouble just like we did in Clarksburg Town Center, which is less dense than this. I don't think that would be something I could support at this point, given our enforcement experience and history. At the end of the day, DOT and myself are left holding the bag. And if we don't establish parking behaviors early, particularly in communities this dense, we are asking for complaints and problems to come up very quickly.
Okay.
So then
is
what
that
I'm hearing is the way we're showing it, Mike, kind of, and Florence and Marie, the way that we're kind of proposing it, where parking is designated on one side of the street. So we're kind of maximizing the amount of on-street parking we can have while still ensuring Marie has kind of sufficient fire truck access on all those streets. Seems to balance both of those objectives.
Yeah, I'm okay with what's shown now. If this needs to be a further conversation with planning, just keep me in the loop. But as of right now, what's shown now, I could support. I could sign off on.
So this is Rebecca from DOT. We just have concerns about the lack of visitor parking. We know that people don't park in their garages. They will park wherever. If you want to see an example, just go to any of the Cabin Branch or Clarksburg. There's several projects up there that have parking issues. And so we were hoping that you would find additional places to provide parking because there's not much. So if they have a party, where do they park? They're not going to park in the adjacent properties, I don't think. So where do these people park with their visitors or themselves?
Rebecca, would it be helpful for us to kind of quantify? Because I think there's on-street parking on almost all of these streets. Obviously not necessarily for the full I'm looking at enough for the full length of like the end kind of, I'll say the T portions of like private street C. But is that helpful for us to kind of quantify to you all exactly how many on-street parking spaces? Because I think, you know, Pulte certainly feels comfortable that there's a sufficient number of on-street in addition to obviously the driveways for the units up at the north and then the private garages for all the others.
Yeah, we do designate that we've got 28 on-street parking spaces for the 72 units. And you know, I'm not sure if there's a metric or anything that you're looking for, but 28 for 72 is more parking than I've provided in the past for, I've gotten approval of less parking for more units, I guess I'd say.
I would say that that doesn't necessarily mean that it was done correctly. Like I said, we have a lot of projects up this area and further north, and they don't have enough parking, and they just park everywhere. The other thing is that there was no road grade submissions for these roads, and that might remove some of the parking because you got to be able to see.
I did see road grade plans in there.
You did see, and what plan were they in?
They were with the site plan.
Right. So they should be with the preliminary plan, which is why we didn't see them.
Okay,
And
we can
then
fix
planning
that.
will review. But
Okay, yeah, we'll certainly make sure to get those in the right folder. I don't think the road grades are too steep or problematic for a lot of this parking to be counted. I guess we could look at seeing if there is additional opportunities for parking, but I'm not sure what that solution is that wouldn't start considering the loss of units.
Mike, why don't we look at this one further and kind of then circle back with our resubmission just so we make sure we can kind of get through some of the other ones. Okay.
Okay.
Yeah, I think a
But helpful
follow-up
to hear
meeting.
everyone's input.
I think a follow-up meeting would be helpful. I would, yeah. Also, from an agency perspective, I'd like to talk this out.
Patrick, you're suggesting a follow-up with DOT, you all, Anne Marie?
Right. Correct.
Okay. Let us know if you're saying with us as well, or if it's more.
No, I think
Just
correct.
All right.
I think it'd be good for the applicant to be there. We can work with you all to schedule that.
Great.
All right. Thank you. Another comment was regarding some of the townhome orientation to the street. We see in the sketch that there's some adjustments that were made to kind of break up some of the sticks of units to allow for some different orientation. We are going to take a look at this further. The initial concerns we have are regarding fire separation between the units and loss of stormwater management. We did our best to kind of balance a lot of different factors with this. And we're obviously sensitive to meeting the stormwater requirements as well as, making sure that the fire separation that's needed is going to be provided. So we are going to take a look at this and see if there's any opportunities here, and we'll give a response to what our findings are. Another comment in that same realm was just about the tree plantings. We certainly will take a look at additional opportunities to see if we can fit some more canopy trees, between, the easements and, the lead walks and everything. We'll see what we can do to get a few more trees in there. One of the comments was regarding, I think it was regarding the width of the alleys. there
This
was,
was on
it
the
was,
urban design sketch.
yeah, thank you. It was regarding, it said to make the entries into the alley from the street as narrow as possible. We're actually proposing 16-foot alleys on these projects. And we would be doing these sidewalks with the commercial driveway apron so that the sidewalk would feel like you were just walking along at grade and that there's no, dips or ramps or anything like that. So it would be a pretty narrow crossing. I think honestly about as narrow as we could get it. I'm not sure if there was other suggestions for something like that, or perhaps the way we drew our commercial driveway aprons. We need to clean that up a little bit to show that the sidewalk is more dominant than the apron.
I think we just wanted clarity if there was, I'm not sure who made the comment, but if there's any more information regarding what you were kind of looking for, since we don't think we can narrow them further than the 16 feet.
Okay, is Paul on the call? I didn't see him. We'll have to follow up with you about that.
Okay, great.
Thank you. So there was also a comment about high visibility units. We will go ahead and prepare an exhibit that shows where those are going to be proposed, and also be providing the high visibility architecture with the coming submission. For the frontage improvements, there was a comment that the right-of-way needs to be 130 feet. We took a close look at it, and we had actually shown on one of our plans 120 feet, but that was actually not correct. The road tapers from 120 feet. The right-of-way for Seneca Meadows tapers from 120 feet and increases as it goes, towards the left on this plan view. And we computed it based on the dedicated plats, and there is 130 feet of dedication on Seneca Meadows Parkway. So that's not anything that we need to do to provide some additional dedication there to meet the requirements. Having said that, if you look at the location of the sidewalk, there is not room within the existing right-of-way to widen the sidewalk based on the existing curb location and the right-of-way. So I think we're thinking that, proposing a short amount of sidewalk widening that would just be, along our pretty limited frontage wouldn't make a tremendous amount of sense. So we were gonna just hold to what we were showing for this area between the narrow room that we have from the curb to the right-of-way and the short frontage. And we just wanted to hear what staff's thoughts are on that.
So Mike, this is Deepak with DOT. So I was looking at the cross sections. There were different cross sections with varying sections in there. So it was really confusing for me to figure out what it was. First of all, there was like 70 feet. There was a whole, I don't know, a way of cutting sections throughout Seneca Meadows. So that was really confusing for me, first of all. And the second thing is, based on complete streets, the complete streets call for a 10-foot wide sidewalk. That's where the comment is coming from. So unless you show me how you cannot incorporate that, you need to put a justification in and show me the cross section why you cannot fit that in.
Okay,
So
all right.
130 feet is the minimum. Again, the master plan called for 130 feet. I understand the master plan called for 130 feet, but that's the minimum. So just wanted to put it out there.
Yeah,
Right.
thank you. I mean, I think the concern, Mike, as I'm hearing you describe it, is both obviously kind of fitting it within the master plan recommended right of way and kind of some of the other constraints that we have, but also like just the practical reality of kind of widening to 10 feet for such a short span and tapering back down to the 5 feet on either side, just because as you can see here, we just have a really tight, limited kind of frontage on Seneca given the lot shape.
But if you look at the connectivity perspective, the master plan calls for shared use path from where the proposed shared use path ends, from there all the way to, I don't know what that road is. I think it's Observation. No, maybe.
Observations to the right. Yeah.
Yeah. So the master plan calls for the shared use path connection from this proposed one all the way to Observation Drive as well. So if you look at the connectivity, it's good to get a 10-foot wide, and especially thinking about the shopping center and right there, the Wegmans right there, there will be more pets traffic over there as well. I mean, if you look at it, you will see more pet traffic coming into going to Wegmans. So I think a 10-foot sidewalk makes sense. Looking at the land uses over here, that's what my thought is. That, you know, in order to meet complete streets and looking at the land use, it makes more sense to have a 10-foot wide sidewalk. Unless you can show me that it cannot be done. There are constraints on site.
What what tree panel would be supported there between the sidewalk and the curb?
This is a parkway, right? And I got to go back and look at what the minimum requirements are for there. On top of my head, I can't recall.
Okay, all right. Well, that's fine. We can look at it too. We just didn't know. Usually there's like a range, and I didn't know if we could propose a minimum for these situations if we are going to try to see if there's something that can be done. But we'll take a deeper look at it and provide a response based on the site constraints.
Yeah, especially looking at the land uses, right? There's a gym over there. There's shopping complex right next door. People would like to walk up there. You know, I mean, that's all I'm looking at.
Right.
Good morning. This is Atik. I have a quick question just for my information, maybe perhaps from DOT or Patrick from Park and Planning can know more better than I do. Why are these streets private? Any reason? Because we have a specific criteria for making roads private, and this was an agreement between DPS and Park and Planning and DOT.
Yeah, I think they were just supporting townhouses. And normally when we have just townhouses in the community, we become in private streets.
It just didn't seem like it was going to connect to any larger network, that this was going to serve only this development. Perhaps some connectivity to the south and west if it would redevelop, but it seemed to be not a critical piece of the larger network. It really seemed to be serving this site only.
And
But that's not.
I will say
That was
we
not
have
the
done.
agreement nor the understanding between the agencies. We're
I
making
think that
decision based on what?
so usually we don't. A lot of times these insular, I want to call it insular because they don't connect. They only have one connection out to the main road, right? They don't meet our standards a lot of times. Not that they're supposed, like, not that they're not supposed to. So that's usually our first reasoning for keeping them private. In this particular case, we don't know what I don't know if they have the centerline radiuses on there, and I don't know if it meets our standards requirement. So we'd have to take a look at that and see if it does. The other thing is that I still have a lot of concern about the lack of parking in this area. And that DOT is going to have to deal with it. We deal with it even on private streets. People call us and complain, and at least we can say that that's not our street. Park in your garage, get rid of your stuff. you know, but I still, usually the streets don't meet our standard, which is why we don't make these public streets.
And I think that that street right now exists as well. That One Life, I think it goes to One Life right now, and that's privately maintained. Up to that T, the entrance from Seneca all the way to the T intersection, the first T intersection. So that exists right now.
I've been given a warning. We're out of time.
Okay, I think we need to
Sorry,
discuss
I'm sorry to
internally.
say that.
Sure. No, I appreciate that. And we did submit some more information about our submission on our request for the private streets, but happy to have further discussion on that. It sounds like
No,
the agencies maybe need to
understand.
speak on it.
I'm not asking
Yeah.
you guys, but we need to discuss it internally, the park planning and DOT and how to proceed with these situations. We'll discuss it.
All right. I know we're out of time. We only had one more thing, so we'll follow up separately on that and some of these other points that we talked about today. But thank you all for your time and the comments, and we look forward to working with you on the project.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
Neil Rossi, this is the second item for DRC. It's a concept plan for 2300 and 2350 Century Boulevard in Up County. And Philip will start the presentation.
Hi, good morning, everyone. My name is Philip Estes. I'm the lead reviewer for this concept plan. I'm just going to highlight a couple of the major comments that came out of the review cycle, and then I'll turn it over to the applicant. Number one, just to be aware, the existing site plan that is applicable to this property includes a number of parcels K, L, M, and N. And so that site plan will need to be addressed as an amendment in our new site plan. Another comment we had was the data table needs to be clarified to show the base density and the bonus density. Also, the live work units that are noted are a commercial use, so that also needs to be included in the density. I won't go into all of the details, but fire and rescue and transportation has a number of detailed comments. And staff provided a drawing that shows some of the urban design and architecture. The major comments include providing ground level connections along Century Boulevard. And then we're also suggesting that the applicant reconsider that loop road that's adjacent to the green space in an effort to provide additional green space. And then instead of using the open spaces on the bottom portion of the drawing as fire department access, we'd like to see if you could consider using the alleys for that, or if you did consider that, why that's not feasible. So that concludes the major comments for this review, and I'll just turn that over to the applicant.
Thank you, Philip. Matthew Gordon from the law firm of Selzer Gervich on behalf of the applicant, who's an affiliate of Capital City Real Estate. We would like to set a meeting where we have more time to kind of go through the drawing that you just provided, as well as the section for the private road, to kind of work through some of those issues, I guess, with DOT and park and planning. And I mean, it doesn't need to be next week. We can do it at some point in July. But we can kind of walk through all. I think we can address some of those comments. Some of them are driven by fire department access requirements. So it's kind of there are a number of issues that we were contending with, but we think we understand all the comments, and I think we can accommodate some of them. Though one of the big questions that we had that I emailed Philip and Jamie about was there's some comments about Century Boulevard right away. I think one of the comments says 136 feet is the right away width. I think the master plan from 2009 says 134 feet, but I guess my understanding is that this was all tied to the Corridor Cities Transit Way, which is no longer funded and planned. And I think there's about 80 feet there today. So we're trying to nail down what actually is required, because I don't think it's 136 or 134 feet, because I think 50 feet was tied to the Corridor Cities Transit Way. So it'd be helpful if we could kind of figure out if there's a couple feet or 4 feet, whatever is needed in addition to the 80 feet. And we can accommodate the bike lane that was recommended, or we got that comment. But I don't think 134 feet is the correct number. So that was something that we were looking to get some direction on.
Yeah, this is Florence with planning. I'll just jump in really quickly. Looking more closely and just measuring real quickly on MC Atlas, just from the property lines, it looks like there actually already is 136, 137 feet dedicated. So I don't think you'll have to do any additional dedication. It looks like all of that is already there.
This is Rebecca from DOT. You need to show us how it fits within the right of way. And that's basically, when you show that, we'll figure out if we need more right of way.
Okay, so I think the only improvement that was noted was the bike lane. So I will work with Soltez. We'll come up with a drawing that we can send to show you how that section fits. but yeah, the numbers, the right of way was throwing us off. So I guess if it's already there, then that's fine too.
Matt, this is Jamie. The most recent master plan that made a recommendation here was the 2022 corridor forward plan. And so it recommends a BRT route called the corridor connector to replace the CCT route that went on the same road. So we don't need any less right of way because of the CCT's change in status. So we still have plans for dedicated lanes on that portion of Century Boulevard with that corridor connector. I don't know why it went from 134 to 136 feet when they did corridor forward. It might have just been an oversight and nobody caught it. I don't know what to do since the most recent master plan does say 136 feet. And I looked at the plats and it looks like there's 134 feet dedicated. So I don't know. I don't know what legal waivers, whatever, need to be done to get that back down to 134.
Yeah, I don't think that, I'm sure 2 feet is not a problem. I think we misunderstood it, and I thought there was only 80 feet dedicated, and there were an additional, 54 or 56 feet. So we'll look at it, and then we'll probably send a plan to both DOT and Park and Planning before we file the expedited plan in September, just to kind of show you what's there and what the improvements are that were identified by the DRC comments, but it shouldn't be a problem. And then there was another I think Keely Loretti from Soltez can speak to it, but there was a Pepco comment that we were a little bit confused by. I don't think we'd ever seen before, asking for like 10 foot easement, not necessarily on Century Boulevard. We understood that, but in other places. But I'm not sure if anyone from Pepco is even on the call.
Yes, we're showing a 10-foot PV along Century Boulevard, but not along the rest of the property. The idea would be that we would have private utilities for the rest of the 2/2s for the multifamily.
We will probably, I guess we should just send that reviewer an email. I don't think they're on. And then I think that was we understood all the other comments, and we're going to work on updating, I guess, since we have some time, the private road. When we met with DOT and Park and Planning 3 or 4 months ago, the 2009 master plan calls for like a really wide public road. It goes through the property. And we went back and forth, and I think the direction we received from DOT was that, and Park and Planning, was there was no viable way to get it through our property and to connect through what I guess is plan view below our site, because it's encumbered by environmental, and there's other properties that we don't have any control over. So we landed on this sort of private road section based on feedback that we got from Park and Planning and DOT. But we're going to look at all the comments that I think Brenda provided and update the section as best we can. And we'd like to kind of reconvene and look at that in the context of the comments that Philip showed that were more kind of urban design related, and walk through all of that so that we can hopefully land on something that is acceptable before we file our formal applications in a few months.
Okay, are there any other comments from agency reviewers? Okay, hearing none. Thank you very much, Matt.
Okay, and who should I know, like with a true application, there's sort of time set aside the following week, but who should I coordinate with if we want like a meeting to look at 2 or 3 different issues with both DOT and Park and Planning?
You can coordinate with me.
Okay.
I'll set that up for you.
Okay. All right. I will email you and we'll take it from there.
Yeah, okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Neil Bronstein. This is the third and final item for DRC for July 1st. A preliminary plan and forest conservation plan for Mahan Village in the Up County area. Josh, take it away.
Hi, Josh Penn, lead reviewer, packager for this application, which is preliminary plan 1, 2025-014-0. Overall, I think the biggest discussion points that we'd like to have was about the site design and the layout of the site, plus also that the environmental features, specifically the stream valley buffers, do not match the NRIFSD, which does impact your overall design on the eastern portion of the site. With that being said, we're here for questions and answers period. So whatever you would like to talk about, Francois.
Thank you very much, Josh. Good morning, everybody. There are a lot of comments on this application. We are going to need some time to go through them all in more detail, have some conversations with WSSC. So we just don't feel like that's going to be productive to try and discuss comments of the magnitude that were provided in this short meeting. So we would basically like to request another meeting in early August to give us time to work through all these comments and make some changes and figure out what changes we can make.
Okay, we can definitely do that. Just some big ticket items. I know you're already looking at this. This whole site is predicated on pressure sewer, and that would be predicated upon the WCC's acceptance of the pressure sewer. I know they didn't directly comment it in their comments here, but I talked with them offline. They said they're not saying yes and they're not saying no. They're awaiting a package from you all to determine whether that feasibility for gravity versus pressure would be allowed or not. So I'm not sure exactly what they're expecting from you all, but that is a really big issue. And then also it's connecting into a sewer line that doesn't exist yet, which is a future CIP. So I think we're just gonna have to wait and hear how you work it out with WSC on those issues.
Yeah. On the sewer line, we understand from WSSC that it is scheduled to be completed in June of 2026, completed in the ground. So, we need to see whether that information is still accurate. If it is, then, that's not going to pose a problem. If it's actually going to be 2030, well, that's a different issue.
Well, as far as I know, they're not even to 30% design yet.
We have 30% design plans.
Okay, you do. Okay.
Our engineers do, and they're not recent. They were from, Jeff, was it 2023? Those 30% design plans?
Yeah, that's correct.
Yeah, so between 2023 and now, we're hoping that they've made additional progress on the designs.
Sure.
But as you point out, they didn't say yes, they didn't say no, and they didn't tell us what they want. So we need to have some conversations with WSSC.
Absolutely.
That's one reason to just sort of postpone the next meeting, because it'll take a little while.
Yeah, and then Francois, is there any other that seemed to be a significant one, and maybe perhaps what you were alluding to? Are there any other high level things that you just want to identify? We don't have to have in-depth conversations, but we could. Well, or when you're ready for that, we could also, if you could share that, then we could prepare.
Absolutely. And before we meet, I will certainly give you a list of issues. If I have a revised plan, we'll provide that. I understand it's going to be a more productive meeting if you have more information ahead of time to go over. So I will do that. We just need to do a little more work. This project has a long history, but the level of detailed comments we got this time are different from ones we've gotten. They're just more detailed than some of the ones we've gotten in the past. So both more detailed and more encompassing. So we just need to go through that.
Excellent. Well, I'll be your point of contact on this one, Francois.
Okay.
So, and I will try to set up a meeting. If you want to give me some dates and times in early August that work for you all, let me know, and we'll get that on the book so we don't get booked over.
Okay, that sounds great. I know it's vacation season in August, so I'm hoping that we can find something. We will need a fair number of people at the meeting because there are issues from a few different areas. But I'll send you an email about that, Josh.
Sounds great. Thank you.
And I do have one question while I have you all here. Regarding the reorganization. I looked at the blog post that Jason put up a few days ago, and it's not obvious where intake is happening.
Good one. Everywhere. All the area teams are taking on that function.
Ah, wow.
Yeah. And noticing.
And noticing. Okay. Well, that should
For
be
now, it's
interesting.
happening as it was happening, but moving towards the fall, like September, we're transitioning out of the way we're doing it now for this month, and we'll all be learning how to do this from various people, and then we'll. I'm talking about both noticing and intake, and then we'll be moving forward in September, August, September on our own.
Okay, you guys are going to be busy.
Yep.
I guess you've been busy before.
Always been busy.
It never stopped.
Yeah. That's nothing new. Okay, well, thank you. At some point, do you think somebody's going to like post something telling us which individuals are now in which group? Because it's a little hard to know who to contact for things.
So for Eric, I thought it was in that presentation. Maybe it's not yet, but it should be live today.
Okay.
If not, it'll be incredibly soon. But just the long story short, the area teams, you'll mostly be speaking with the same chiefs for now. There are some shuffling of supervisors that have occurred into new divisions, into the existing area team divisions. Yeah, some of the lead reviewers have also been shuffled around, so to other area teams. And then the environmental reviewers are all in the environmental division.
Yeah.
The transportation reviewers are all in the transportation division. But yeah, there have been some shuffling of individuals and supervisors. So yeah, if it's not live today, I'll definitely send you a link soon.
Okay, that would be great. And I assume
Well,
sometime.
this is Robert.
there
It
we
was
go.
in what
Hi.
Jason sent out. Hey, Jason did send out information, and it should be in that both the blog post and there should be a chart.
I did not make the list of whatever he sent out because I didn't
If
get
you
anything.
don't have it, I'm happy to send that to you then.
That would be super.
I can send it to you, Francois.
Thank you, Robert. Appreciate it.
The MC Atlas, so that should be on that link as well.
Great. Okay. Well, thanks everybody. Do you guys have any other questions for us today?
Nope. Done.
Great.
Have a good one.
Take care. Bye.
Thank you.